so I'm still fending for myself. Poor little old me. Hey, what's up there, guys? Scrag coming back at you again. I'm leaving Costco yet again at Costco. Oh my gosh, it's like I got this daily routine that I just can't give up. Anyway, it's Saturday. It's an off day. Normally it's a take it easy and chill day, don't really shoot videos day. I mean, I'm always shooting a video, it's just I don't really anticipate doing a topic. I just videotape myself like riding or doing whatever my cycling activity is for the day. I hit up Costco because I was hungry, but not hungry enough to really go get a meal, but hungry enough to just kind of graze on the samples. And Saturdays are one of the best days to go get samples at the Costco, because they usually have extra workers out and they're out in full force, so they got tons of samples. Today was no letdown. They had plenty of samples for me to get my fix on. But I'm actually just trying to kill time again, so I'm going to drive miles away up to Provo and go to Sam's Club and graze on their samples and see if there's anything cool at Sam's Club, because I don't get up there too often. But I got nothing but time. Family's still out of town. It's Saturday. They should be back tomorrow evening. But yeah, they're still out of the house, so I'm still fending for myself. Poor little old me. Anyway, but I figured while I was on my way up there, it takes a few minutes to get there, I'd talk about a problem that I have. And it's a good problem. It's a good problem to have, because sometimes, you have a problem and you just don't have a solution for it, or, there's just no way out of it. And my problem is a very simple problem. The problem is I want another bike. That's my problem. I can't decide what bike I want. That's why it's a good problem, right? Because I have options. My options at this point are kind of limited in the number of things that I want on the bike. So I'll run down that list real fast. One, needs to be a road bike, because I don't have a road bike yet, and that's the next bike I want to get is a road bike. Two, I want it to be an aluminum frame. Now, I know, aluminum is schmoominum, but I have crashed enough times and in enough ways to know that I don't trust myself to not destroy a carbon bike. And that's not to say that an aluminum bike wouldn't have been damaged in the same way that a carbon bike would be damaged in the kind of crashes that I've had. But the belief I have that aluminum is just stronger for a beginner kind of comes from Durian Ryder. He says, go aluminum, it's cheaper, blah, 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 blah. You can get more for your money. So that's my another one of my needs to be's. Disc brakes. The bike needs to have disc brakes. I understand that disc brakes aren't necessary, but we get some inclement weather here, and I'd like to be able to ride in every weather type that we get. And I believe that in that case, disc brakes would benefit me over the rim brakes. And when we're talking disc brakes, you guys having fun? When we're talking disc brakes, they need to be hydraulic disc brakes. I've ridden bikes with both mechanical and hydraulic, and by far superior. Hydraulics are by far superior. So needs to have hydraulic disc brakes. Gearing, I'd prefer the gearing to be compact crank up front with as many teeth in the back as I can get. I know most road bikes come with like a maximum of a 32, but I'm okay with that. So looking for as easy a gearing as possible. We do have quite a few mountains around here, And I'm not the strongest cyclist, so having every bit of help to get up mountains is always great. And like Durian Rider always preaches, you got to spin to win, and I would like to spin to win. Another need. That's really it for needs. What the bike needs to have. Now, where am I at in my hunt for a new bike? I have kind of squared the number of bikes down to my top 3. And I will give them to you in no particular order, other than this is how I think about it. Number 1 right now, and this bike is number 1 simply because it checks more of those boxes than any other bike on my list. It's the new Giant Contend SL1 disc. Retail price on it is $1,315, I think, US. It has everything. Now, you would say, "Oh, Scrag, whoa, if it's got everything, why don't you just go and get that bike?" Well, my one hold-off on it, my only hold-off on the SL1 disc is the brakes are not truly hydraulic. They are a hydraulic hybrid, meaning that the brake line that comes off of the rotor is hydraulic, and the brakes are actuated hydraulically. But up at the top of the stem, there's a converter that converts from hydraulic to mechanical. And that is a good and a bad thing. The good side of it is that every gear shifter out there that's got a mechanical pole, you can put on the bike. The bike comes stock with Shimano 105, which is a good shifter lever. But if I ever wanted to upgrade to, Ultegra or Dura Ace, the Ultegra Dura Ace line currently doesn't have a hydraulic brake line, right? But these brakes that the SL1 disc uses are a hybrid, so any mechanical pull lever can actuate the hydraulic line. So that's the good side. The downside is everything about hydraulic that you like is the modulation you get, that stopping power and the modulation, the feel. You get a feel from a hydraulic brake that you don't get from a mechanical brake, specifically disc. And in this case, now you're taking the benefit of the hydraulic braking power and the modulation, and you're basically cutting it. And my guess is it's actually worse than just a straight mechanical disc brake would feel, because you're running it through this converter. And so that converter is going to dampen the modulation and make it much less of a good feel when you're going to use the brake. Wow, I got to Provo super fast, and much faster than I thought I was going to get here. And I only got to the Giant SL1 disc. I'm going to go get samples, and then I'm going to get back in the car, and then I'm going to talk about my next 2 bikes. I will be back in just a few. I am stuffed. So I walked around Sam's Club, and they didn't have very many samples. So I stopped at the food court and got a hot dog. Well, the hot dog, after eating all the samples at Costco, was probably too much food, because now I am filled to the brim. That's a good thing, because now I don't have to go and worry about what I'm going to eat for lunch or for the next several hours, probably. Anyway, right now I'm just sitting in the parking lot, killing time, debating whether or not to drive up to one of the other thrift shops, because there's a couple of items I'd like to try and find for my bike. Something to permanently attach to the stem so that when I put my extended battery on, it will just slip into almost like a cell phone holder. So I think that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to head up to the thrift shop. While I'm there, I'm going to look for some cycling gear because I have a knack for finding decent deals on cycling jerseys. I still haven't found anything yet on like bibs or something like that. I don't know how I would feel wearing someone else's underwear, but we'll see. Anyway, so that's what we're going to do. And while we're on our way, we're going to talk about the second bike on my possible list that I want to get. So, bike number 2. Bike number 2 is number 2 because, well, number 1's occupied by the Giant Contend. And if it wasn't for the Giant Contend, I more than likely would be getting bike number 2. Because, again, it ticks a lot of the boxes except a couple. So, bike number 2 is a Cannondale CAD 12 Disc 105. That is Cannondale's aluminum bike that is their super bike. And it is got the hydraulic brakes. And I don't know if they're a hybrid brake. And the reason I don't know if they're a hybrid brake is because I haven't been able to actually see one. I've gone into the 2 Cannondale dealerships that are in my area, and neither one of them has carried or has been able to get in this bike. Basically, I have to order it in order to test ride it, and I'm not going to spend $1,800 to test ride a bike. But that being said, I know Cannondales are renowned for being high quality, great bikes, and the 2 biggest knocks, well, I'll say 3. The most blaring knock on the Cannondale CAD 12 is its price. It's the most expensive bike that I'm interested in. It's not a mountain bike or mountain e-bike. The gearing on it is road gearing. It's got a 52-tooth big ring and I think like a 38-tooth small ring up front, and it's 11 by 28 in the rear. So it's a race bike. It's not a hill climbing bike. So that's kind of a knock because I'd have to immediately go out and change out the crank set or go out and change out the rear cassette, which I'd like to not have to do right away on a bike. But everything about the bike, other than those things, I'm super stoked about. It seems like a really awesome bike. It's got probably some of the best looks of any of the bikes that I'm interested in. I love the color scheme that it comes in the 105 disc version. It's kind of this matte gray, black, blue color. And I didn't say that about the SL1. I really like the SL1 from Giant because its colors are black and orange. My favorite team. Yeah, that's kind of the downside there. And then bike number 3. Bike number 3 is also a Cannondale. It's the Cannondale Synapse or Synapse. I'm not sure how they pronounce it, but it's another bike that I am highly attracted to. It's got the gearing that I'm looking for, but I have not seen it with disc brakes on the aluminum version, and that's a major letdown for me. I guess I'll give a Slash. The Slash is, so tied for third is a Giant bike, the Giant Defy. But again, the same issue with the Defy is the same issue with the Synapse. They, I believe, only do the hydraulic disc. brakes on the carbon bike, on the carbon frame. So Defy and Synapse have both an aluminum version and a carbon version. And I do believe that both those bikes, the only way to get the upgraded disc brakes with hydraulic brake lines is to get the carbon frame. Now, a little history. I won't say history because it's not really old. It's new news. So what do you call new history? Can it be new history? I'm inventing a term, new history. New history is that the Contend is the exact same geometry, frame, everything basically as a Defy, but there's one slight difference. The rear chainstays, as if there's front chainstays. The chainstays on the Giant Contend are slightly shorter. They're like 1 centimeter shorter than they are on the Defy. That's the difference between the Defy and the Contend. Now Giant, I guess in some backwards thinking of, you know, this is how we're going to simplify our bike line. We're going to add another bike line. They didn't like having the Defy with so many different levels, because you could get an aluminum Defy, you could get a carbon Defy, you could get the super carbon Defy. There's just all these levels of Defy, and they wanted to defy logic and add yet another bike to replace the aluminum Defy. So now the aluminum version of the Defy is effectively called the Contend, and that's how they're separating the two. I'm not sure the point, the purpose really, other than now when you say Defy, it will mean carbon. If you say Contend, it will mean aluminum. That's going to be the big differentiation of the two bikes. That and the Defy has a slightly different geometry on the frame. Now, I have only ridden one of the bikes that I've talked about. I've only been able to ride one. Well, I won't say only been able to. I've only actually gone to the bike store and asked to have a test ride on one bike, and it happens to be the Contend. I stopped in to just kind of look at bikes and asked if they had any, and the guy said, yeah, I've got one, I just haven't put it together. I'll put it on my list of bikes to build, and I'll call you when it's done. And he called me like the next day. So the guy jumped right on it and put it together, and it was awesome. So I test rode it. So I guess I keep leaning towards just basically saying I'm getting a Giant Contend. I've test rode it. I liked it. My only reservation on it is the brakes. So that's my problem. Getting back to the beginning, my problem is I really want a new road bike, and I really want it to have all those things that I've gone over and described, and I really want a Giant Contend SL1. Yeah, that's what I want. I'm going to get one, I'm pretty sure, unless Trek or Specialized. I won't even say Trek or Specialized. I've looked at the Specialized. I went to the shop, checked out, went online. I cannot understand the cost. Like, when you look at what the Specialized offers in the same performance level as any of the other bike brands, except maybe Cannondale, they just don't even come close as far as cost to value that I can see. Maybe I'm just missing something. Maybe there's some huge, advantage that Specialized has that I don't know. But when I look at the 105 version of the Specialized LAs, I think is, or LA, it's like $2,000. It's more expensive than a Cannondale, which doesn't make a lot of sense to me, because performance-wise, I think the Cannondale tops it with the specs that are in it and everything else that goes with it. it is a downgrade, I think, as far as bikes go. To we got like traffic jam at the thrift shop today. Craziness. Everybody's coming to donate, I guess. And so it's like it's madness. It's Sparta. But yeah. And that is going to be it for my problems today. I'm hoping that you guys have sympathy for my problem. But yeah, if you have any suggestions, any buying suggestions as far as new bikes go, I'm interested in a new bike. That's one more thing I guess I'll talk about. I'm interested in a new bike because, especially around here, when you buy a new bike, they come with a service package that, depending on the type of bike you get, the bike shop you get it from, can be anything from you get several free tune-ups for the life of the bike. So you get to have like a punch card. That's what you get if you buy a Giant. The local dealership here gives you 5 free tune-ups. And you get free bike adjustments, whatever, for the first like 30 or 60 days. I forget what it is. So that's kind of actually a downside to the Giant too. I guess I'll put that in the downsides. The Giant dealership here, Taylor's Bike Shop in Provo, only offers you 5 free tunes. Now, and the other thing is they don't do a bike fit. So that could be bad. That could be real bad, actually, because you might think that a frame fits you better than another frame and go with that frame, and then down the line find out that no, the frame size is wrong. I don't know. But they kind of sell a bike like, hey, how tall are you? Oh, you should ride a large. Or, hey, how tall are you? Oh, you should ride a small. Blah, 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 blah. The 2 Cannondale dealerships that we have here, there's one that's actually in my hometown of Spanish Fork. They just moved here like the beginning of August, so this month. They are Noble Sports or Noble Cycling, and they have a bike fit so you can be set down on it, and then they will actually talk to you, kind of see how things feel. That they sit you on a bike that's like a test bike kind of thing, and take adjustments, this, that, and the other. The other bike shop, SBR in Orem, I actually think is the best for buying the bike from, because they have a machine that they put you on that, it fine-tunes and adjusts, and it's called a Bike Guru. I don't know if anybody's heard of that. And the Bike Guru will find all your measurements. So crank length, saddle height, saddle position, everything, stem height, stem position, blah, 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 blah. And they will tune the bike up to what the machine says you're supposed to be. And that's awesome. And again, that you get that with the purchase of the bike. You can do a pro tune, which costs a little bit more money, where they really set some stuff up. The basic tune may not cover all the things that I talked about, but it gives you basic things like saddle height and what the actual bike size should be for you. Not just, hey, you're 5'11", you should have a large, blah, blah, blah. Or 56, or 58, or this, or the other. Anyway. So, in terms of bike, the Giant Contend is my number 1, but in terms of bike shop, Taylor's is probably the second. For me, Noble Sports, in Spanish Fork, I'm just gonna come out and say it. I don't like the way that their sales operations is. The few times I've been in there, one when they were in Springville, or I should say 2 or 3 times when they were in Springville, and the 2 times I've been in there since they've been to Spanish Fork, I've dealt with different people each time, and each time I felt like I was bothering them. They were always on the computer, and it felt like when I walked in the shop, it was, hey, how's it going? If you need help, let me know. I'm surfing the web. Instead of, hey, is there anything I can do for you? Can I show you something? Blah, 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 blah. And I understand there's different types of salesman methods, right? I worked in sales for a short period of time, and I was the type of person who knew anything and everything about all the stuff that I sold. And I went out and did the research on my own, even though I had no interest in actually like buying every bike or whatever. You know, in my case it was paintball. I worked at a paintball store for a number of years, and at the paintball store, I took it upon myself to know everything about the different manufacturers, the different levels of gun from each manufacturer, all the way up the line, right? And there were dozens, if not 100 different types of guns. I feel that when I ask a bike shop employee a question, they shouldn't have to go and just go to the website and read the sales pitch off the website. To me, that isn't a good salesman. And I've had that experience now a couple of times with the different... Now, they were younger. They were, I'll say, probably young men, like 18, 19, 20 maybe. But the two times the older guys that worked there, and I think one of them was the owner, it almost felt like he was just too into the computer. Whatever he was doing, I couldn't see the screen. He was maybe answering emails, maybe placing orders. I don't know, but it felt like I was bothering him by being there. You know, when he came out to show me a bike, it was like, here's the bike. Let me know if you have any questions. Instead of, is there anything you want to know about the bike? You know, he handed me the bike off of the rack and walked away basically. And to me, it was like, hey, I don't really want you to buy the bike here, but if you want to look at it here, go ahead. And that's the feeling that I got. So Noble Sports, you're at the bottom of my want to give you my money list. Taylor's, actually, I don't have any problem with the staff. The staff's always been really helpful. Taylor's is number 2 simply because they have the least beneficial bike package for buying a new bike from. It's almost better to buy a used bike and just take it into Taylor's and have them fix it for you, because, you know, if you ever needed to have the problem, you're going to save the money on the bike buying it used. And Taylor's doesn't have too expensive of a tune-up if you ever needed a tune, blah, blah, blah. So Taylor's is number 2 simply because of that. But staff, awesome. Every time I've asked them a question, they were super helpful, or they asked someone for me of the staff who knew the answer. They didn't go to a computer and look it up and, oh, let me see if I can find out what Giant says about this. No, it was like, hey, I'm going to ask this guy and he's going to tell me. And it didn't feel like I was just reading a sales website or having someone read me a sales website, which I can do on my own. Number 1 bike shop I've been to in the area is SBR Cycles in Orem. When I walked in, I didn't know he was the owner at the time, but the owner, out of all the employees that were there and available, and SBR had this like crazy amount of employees, the owner walks up and, hey, how can I help you? Can I show you anything? I mean, he seriously wanted my business, I felt like. You know, he was going out of his way to address, you know, my needs. And I felt like he was the best salesman of all of them, or the best shop service-wise of all of them. I feel really bad because I really want to give him my money for the bike. But the bike that I want, they don't carry because they're a Cannondale dealership, and I'm really leaning towards this Giant Content. So that's my other struggle, or my other problem that I have, is where I'm going to buy the bike from. Anyway, guys, that's the end of this rant. I'm at Deseret Industries here in Provo. I'm going to go in, look for the thing that I'm looking for. I think, oh yeah, this is that piece for the bike, the little carrier handle or carrier bag thing. And then I'm going to look for some cycle jerseys. Take care, guys. I have no idea how long this video is. It feels like I've been talking for an hour, so I'm hoping it's not an hour long. But yeah, I will catch you all later. Peace out.